Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. This episode of Sausage on a Fork has been sponsored by Matthew John Oakley. He's released a book called Yes Paul. He has very kindly made a donation to the Good Grief Trust to sponsor this episode. So without any further ado, here's a word from our sponsor.
Yes Paul is a collection of illustrated insights into Paul Sykes' unique life. Notorious con, heavyweight boxer, writer and educated man, including colourful cellmates and a few folk from right on the family patch. Available now from Warcry Press, created by Matthew John Oakley. What would they say, Nick, when I start like this? Yes, Paul.
Welcome to Sausage on a Fork, a podcast dedicated to the UK's longest running children's drama programme, Grange Hill. My name's Neil, and in each episode I'll interview a former cast member about their life before, during and after their time on the programme. This episode of Sausage on a Fork has been sponsored by Matthew John Oakley. He's released a book called Yes Paul. He has very kindly made a donation to the Good Grief Trust to sponsor this episode. So without any further ado, here's a word from our sponsor.
Yes Paul is a collection of illustrated insights into Paul Sykes' unique life. Notorious con, heavyweight boxer, writer and educated man, including colourful cellmates and a few folk from right on the family patch. Available now from Warcry Press, created by Matthew John Oakley. What would they say, Nick, when I start like this? Yes, Paul.
Okay, welcome to the next episode of Sausage on a Fork. I hope everyone's having a good Christmas build-up. I'm very, very pleased to say that I've been joined for this episode by none other than George Wilson, who played Ziggy Greaves. George, welcome to Sausage on a Fork.
Hello, Neil. Pleased to meet you.
Likewise. Everything going okay?
Everything's cool. Yeah, everything's cool as Swansea. Yeah.
Excellent. That's good to know. Okay, George, what we'll do, we'll jump right back and we'll start right back at the beginning of your acting career. And if you can just let us know, how did you get into acting?
It was at school, I think. Got me interested in first year at drama. It was the only lesson really that I excelled at.
Uh-huh.
And my drama teacher used to encourage me, to take it further. So I did. I joined the Everyman Youth Theatre, and we used to do classes every Thursday, me and a couple of pals. And I just got better and better, really. It was just working class kids going there every Thursday, doing improvisations, putting plays on, and that just fine-tuned me for what was to come, really.
Right. And did you get to work with anyone, any big names or anyone that any of the listeners might know?
Yeah, Andrew Schofield was always about, played Scully, Liverpool actor. He was well known. He was always popping about around the Everyman. A few other faces. Mickey Stark was always about, who played Sinbad in Brookside. Yeah, so there was always a few faces that were, that you knew.
Yeah. Okay, and I've got to ask this one: is that where you met Jason Hope? Is that how you got to know him?
Jay was in my class at school, so we actually joined together, the Everyman. Me and him went together because Jay was always. I never really spoke to him in the first couple of years of school, and then all of a sudden, he just come up to me in the playground because he heard I was good at drama. He said, and he was good as well in his class because he was in a different class for drama. And he said, "Look, do you fancy joining the Everyman with me?"
All right.
So we joined together, and he got Brookside, I got Grange Hill, not around the same time,
Right. Okay. I just point out there for anyone listening who doesn't know, Jason Hope played Rod Corkill in Brookside. Just pointing that one out there. So then, how did Grange Hill come about then?
Grange Hill was literally, my agent was Ricky Tomlinson at the time.
All right.
Yeah, he was my agent. Jason was already in the agency, so he took me to his office one day and got me signed up. And anyway, I got a phone call saying there was auditions in Manchester. So I just literally turned up. There must have been 1,000 kids from all over the place. They weren't just Scousers, there were Mancunians, there were Scousers, people from Yorkshire, Norwich for some reason. And anyway, I got narrowed down from 1,000 to 500, 200, 150, all the way to 2 left. Me and this other kid from Norwich. That's why Norwich sticks in my head. And then, then the next day, I had to go to Brookside to meet Phil Redmond, and he had to decide which one out of 2 of us. So it was very nerve-wracking. I was only just 15, and I knew everything hinged on this decision, whatever he made.
Yeah.
And he literally just spoke to me for about 10 minutes, checked me out, asked me about 5 questions. And then he said, well, okay, George, congratulations, you got the part.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. So what I've got to ask then, what was Ricky Tomlinson like? What was it like knowing him?
Yeah, Rick was cool. He was, he's just like he is on the telly, really. Yeah. He's just himself. It's just Ricky's Ricky. Yeah. Bobby Grant. No, he's just a very working class guy and likes to laugh, likes to drink. Well, he did. I don't know whether he still does, but he's just a normal guy. That you'd see in a pub, in a bar, in a pub.
Whenever I've heard anyone talk about him, they've always said exactly the same. One of my mates used to live in the same road as him. And he said one day, he said, there was a knock on the door and this bloke, he said, I answered the door and he said, Jim Royal was just stood there. He said, it wasn't Ricky Tomlinson. He said, it was just Jim Royal was just stood at the door.
That's it. Well, that's the key to good acting when you play yourself in a role. Yeah. That's all he does.
So you got the part when you were 15. So you had to move down to London. Did your family go with you?
No. I went on my own. I had to go on my own, really. The first month I stayed in Hackney with a family, but it didn't work out. I wasn't happy for various reasons. And I then stumbled. This guy who was a chaperone called Jeff. He heard I wasn't happy where I was, and he asked me to go back and meet his wife and his daughter. So I did. And within 5 minutes of being in their house, I think Bob Dylan was playing when I walked in.
Right.
It was all chilled, and a nice vibe. And I ended up there for 4 years, basically.
Wow, right. Well, that must have been really daunting for you, moving down there at that age, like.
Yeah, it was at first. I was almost packing my bags, to be honest. After a month, I really had enough. After a month, I just, because of where I was staying, I just wasn't happy. I was missing home. I was missing my family, my friends, everything. I was on the verge of coming home. If Jeff hadn't have approached me when he did at Marylebone Station, I believe I would have come home.
Right.
He actually talked me into staying and, give me hope.
Yeah.
And I was looking at him like he's not here. He's not with us anymore, sadly. He passed away about 15 years ago now.
Right.
But I was looking at him as like a bit of an angel in my life, that came down.
Oh, yeah. That's really nice to have someone like that, isn't it? With you. So what was it like for you joining the show? Because when you joined, the group that you were with, the cohort that you were with, had already been there for a year. It was they were an established group. So how was it joining?
At first, it was a little bit strange. No one knew me. I was a bit of an outsider. I didn't gel with any of the boys really for a good few months.
Right.
I didn't make any friends really with any of them at first. I think the first to come across was probably Ricky.
Right.
Ricky Simmons. And at first, I really didn't like the guy. I'll be honest. I know he won't mind me saying this. I really did not like him. And I think a lot of it was jealousy. I was quite jealous of him because he was quite popular amongst the girls in the cast. They were always hovering around him and, he was good looking. Yeah. I think it was a bit of jealousy, obviously, at first. But then we'd done a scene together. I think he mentioned it in his interview where he kept laughing all the time.
Right, yeah.
And that's what broke the straw off the camel's back between us.
I get you, yeah.
I just made him laugh, and I didn't mean to make him laugh, but I did. I was just pulling his face. I knew it every time I'd done it, he'd crack up. and it was getting quite frustrating for him, really, after about 20 takes. But that's when we became friends. After that scene.
Yeah.
So he was the first, really, and then John Alford became my pal, and John Drummond became very close. John, he virtually lived with me for the 4 years, and every weekend he was staying at Jeff's, you know.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
no, that's...
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you were not getting on with Ricky, that had nothing to do with the fact that he auditions for the part of Ziggy Greaves.
I know. You know what? I don't ever remember him telling me that.
Right.
That was the first time I heard that he'd done it. You know, and hats off to him for carrying it on.
Yeah.
You know, for so long. And I think he gave up, did he, once he started working for, I can't carry on for a couple of years, whatever. But, you know, to carry that on for the length of time he did must have been quite hard, you know.
I mean, it's, to be fair to him, it wasn't a bad Scouse accent either, really. Like, you know, I've heard some terrible ones in my time. Like,
he was a little bit like Ringo Starr, but he got away with it.
Oh, no. So, I mean, you've just mentioned some of your mates there, like, and obviously, like, people who follow you on social media and stuff will know that you're still really good friends with John Alford and John Drummond, like, which I think, for me, that's quite a unique thing for you to not live close to them anymore, but still to have that really, really good relationship after 30 years. Like, I think that's a pretty amazing thing.
Yeah, well, John Drummond was actually just up here a couple of weeks ago. He stayed with me. I've just got a new place in West Derby, and he just come up to visit. We worked out he's visited about 9 different houses I've lived in Liverpool.
Okay.
Now. It works out about 9, 10.
Yeah.
But me and John, we kept that bond, you know, regardless of wherever we've lived. Whenever I go to London, I make a point of either seeing one of them.
Yeah.
John Drummond or John Alford. You know, it's just we just stay good pals. It's just we just got on so well for the 4 years of doing it. We had such a laugh that you know. And the beauty of social media as well, and texting each other and WhatsApp, and you know, it's easier now to keep in touch as well.
Definitely.
Meeting up, you know.
Yeah. So, who did you really enjoy working with out the cast? Like, was there anyone where you thought, I've got a really good scene?
Let me think. I mean, all of them, obviously, but I think if I ever had a scene if I had to choose, I think Drummond, because you never knew. I'd say Drummond because he was similar to me, as in we try and add little things, we'd ad lib, and he was as good as me. I know everyone singles me out, but he was just as, believe me, he was just as clever as anyone at doing it. But you wouldn't notice him doing it. I could pick out episodes and scenes, so many that he does it, but you'd never know. Only I'd know half the time that he's done it because he was that clever at it.
Yeah, because I know I have mentioned that a couple of times in on the podcast, things where I've read that you loved ad-libbing and improvising. Yeah,
I mean, it was never. I'd never mean to do it. I wouldn't go into a scene, right? I'm going to add this now to trip everyone up or whatever. It would just sort of come to me. At the end, normally we do it at the end of a scene, because if you do it at the beginning, you go cut. What you do, what you're saying. But if you do it at the end of the scene, you'd more than likely got away with it, because they just think either they wouldn't notice it, or half the time it worked anyway, because we were mainly doing sayings that we used to do at the time, you know, little slang words or sayings, or throw someone's name in that we knew. Or silly little sayings. It was just between us, the lads. Only we got it. Like me, Drummond and Alford really done it.
Right.
Then Mauler and Ted started. They got on that we done it, so they started to do it then. They started ad-libbing silly little things.
Yeah.
if you watch especially towards the last series I was in, they definitely start getting on it as well and doing it.
Yeah.
So it was then between the 5 of us. The likes had gone. He might have done the odd one, but not a lot. It was mainly down to me, Drummond, Alford, Josh, who played Mauler, and Ted, Ian.
Yeah.
It was those that.
Yeah, no, because I noticed there's one episode where you call someone a gang of wasters or something, and I just thought, no one's going to know what he's on about there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There used to be another word, but they never let me use it.
Oh, right.
When I used to work on a milk round, the milkman used to have a word. Used to call anybody that was a waste of space or a waster or someone an idiot, basically. He'd call them a fog inspector, because it means someone who goes out and inspects fog. You know, it's got to be an idiot, hasn't it? So I used to have that word, fog inspector, but they would never let me use that word.
Oh, right.
Because it sounded like a swear word, like
oh, right. I get you. Yeah.
So, but Ricky used to love this saying, and I tried to get away with it a couple of times and it failed. But I did get away with it once when we were filming in Coventry. I was high up a tree. You've got to listen very carefully. And I'm surrounded by these kids trying to throw things at me to get me out the tree.
Right.
And very faintly, you can hear at the very end of the scene, "Go away, you fog inspectors."
Right, okay.
So I got away with it, you know. I died to get away with it, and I did.
Oh, that's so that was when you were doing the barge trip episodes, that was, wasn't it, Coventry?
Yeah, that's right, the barge, yeah. We Adam Bell was on that one as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He spoke to the week.
Oh, yeah. No, that's it. That's one that the Grange Hill fans really love. It's the barge episodes. Like you just mentioned Aaron there. Obviously, he spoke when I was talking to him about the relationship that you had with him. Stuff. What was the?
It makes it sound like.
No. You know what I mean. He did say you had a really good working relationship there, and obviously you met his dad a couple of times and stuff like.
What it was his dad, Tom Bell. My nan was a big fan of his.
Right.
And when she found out I was working with his son, she was like, "Oh, you're working with Tom Bell's son," and and all this. And I said, "Yeah." So that was how I got chatting to him about that, his dad. And funny enough, I worked with his dad on a film in Liverpool. I had a couple of lines in it. And do you know what? The bloody name of it's gone out my head. But Tom Bell was in it. And we were filming at St. George's Hall. Let Him Have It. That was it. Let Him Have It.
Oh, yeah.
About Bentley and Craig. And I got to meet Tom and said to him, I worked with your son on Grange Hill for a year. And he was over the moon. He said, "Oh, yeah, Aaron," And the next thing, he took me under his wing on the film set then. I was sitting in his trailer with him. I was going in the pub with him. He really looked after me. And I got a photograph with him on a Polaroid. Now, I have still got it. And I got it. He signed it to me, Nan. To Irie. Lots of love, Tom Bell.
Yeah.
And I give it to me, Nan, obviously, when she was alive. And she was over the moon,
Yeah.
She absolutely loved Tom Bell.
Yeah, no, that's it.
So I was telling her that.
Yeah.
Recently, we had a long conversation. And I was telling him all about that, because he didn't know.
No, that's cool. So in general, though, how did you find the relationship between the kids and the adults on the show?
It was cool, yeah. I mean, a lot of the adults, it was like a bit like you remember Planet of the Apes? Apparently, all the apes stuck together, and all the chimpanzees together on the set. Apparently, well, this was a bit like that. All the teachers would sit together, all the extras would sit together, all the main cast would sit together. It was a little bit like that, but all in all, I mean, the teachers were great.
Yeah.
There was never any, never looked down on us, and Gwyneth, who played Mrs. McCluskey, I've just had a new relationship, should I say, again, with her, because we met on Pointless a couple of years ago, and we've kept in touch. We WhatsApp each other every couple of weeks just to say hi and send pictures. And, I have a great friendship with her now, which I would never have in a million years believed I would,
Yeah.
And Aaron. And Jeffrey Cassoon, funny enough, bumped into it. He was doing a play in Liverpool about 5 years ago, Anthony and Cleopatra, with Kim Cattrall from Sex and the City. Yeah. So I went along with my partner Mel, and we met Jeffrey, and it was great to catch up with him and catching up with him again over all the old times. And we met Kim Cattrall as well, which she was made up my missus because she's a big fan of Sex and the City,
Did she throw her Scouse accent out, Kim Cattrall?
No. He's very quite well spoken.
Yeah. No, that's good.
That's sexy. Look,
yeah.
that's sexy. her age, she's still got it,
Yeah, no, excellent. So have you got any sorts of favorite storylines or episodes, things that you were involved with? Because let's be honest, Ziggy Greaves was he was your main character, wasn't he? Let's be honest, and you did Ziggy Greaves did so much in those times.
Yeah, a lot of the storylines centered around him. I think because he was from Liverpool as well, the character stood out.
Yeah,
I think if he would have been Cockney, it might have stood out as much or been as popular. I certainly believe that. But I think my favourite, to be honest, was the episode where we're running around the school looking for the intruder.
Oh, yeah,
which was me, John, and the old caretaker, Mr. Griffiths, George Cooper. And then we get joined by Mauler and Ted. That was such a laugh, filming that late at night, running around the school, and when I watch it, it makes me laugh because there's loads of ad-libs in that if you watch it.
Right. And George Cooper as well. I mean, like that's your bona fide Acton legend there as well, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
The man was legendary. He used to sit around with us and tell stories about his career.
Yeah.
And I remember him telling us one story one day, and I'm bamboozled because one of my favourite films was Zulu.
Right.
I love the film Zulu. And he told us that he could have been in the film Zulu. He actually auditioned and got the part as the Sergeant Bourne. But it would have, because it got put back to filming, it would have meant him having to go over to Africa to film it, and it would have clashed with the birth of his child.
Right.
So he didn't want to leave his wife on her own to give birth. So he cancelled the big part. Wow. He gave it in, and it got cast to Nigel Green. So he could have been in Zulu, he could have been like one of the major players in Zulu, but he chose to be with his wife, which I thought was just incredible.
Especially in those days. In those days as well, that's very, very different. No, that's amazing. Like,
he put his family before his career,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I have to ask this as well. When you joined, I mean, obviously you were filming in 1985, I think, when you first started filming.
85, yeah.
Yeah, Series 9 went out in 86, and from the very first day you were feuding with Imelda. There was all kinds of fights and stuff going on. What was it like? What was it like working with Flair?
Flair was great, She was always cheeky as well in real life, so she suited that part. She wasn't as evil. She wasn't as evil, but she was cheeky, She wasn't soft, and our relationship was great. It was we had a laugh doing that. It's a shame she only lasted a couple of years. I thought we could have got more out of her. But I suppose if you couldn't go any further, she'd gone past the point. She had to leave, get expelled.
Yeah.
But Flair was cool, and Ruth. I love the pair of them. Yeah. They both just take the mickey out and be terrible when they see me. That's like a double.
Fair play. And then, because not like quite often, I'll go through people and I'll pick things out of each series that they've done. But Ziggy Greaves did everything. One of the episodes I really like, it's just before the well, it was like it's almost like a double part with Zamo, the Just Say No episode, the episode when everyone finds out about him, and it's you and John going around London.
Oh yeah,
I mean that must have been a ball as well. Like,
well, funny enough, like I was talking about Ricky earlier, me and Ricky bonded when we done that scene where he kept laughing. Me and John bonded doing that episode because before that we were kind of a little bit weary of each other, I think, and we'd had a couple of scrapes together, and then all of a sudden we had this episode together where we had to wander around London, and he shows me around, and that took us about 4 days. Right. I think we filmed all week, actually. I think it must have been the whole 5 days maybe. So it was just me and him, so we had no one else really to talk to besides the adult crew. So that's when it gave me and John a chance to get to know each other and talk about football. He was an Arsenal fan, I was a Liverpool fan. We talk about music. We had the same music tastes. Right. So we found out. So that was our chance then, me and John, to hit it off, and get close. That was me and John's time.
There's a line in that. There's a line in that episode and you say to him, "Do you know what? You're all right. You are." And I watched it thinking, I wonder if that was part of the script, or if you were just saying that to him.
No, that was in the script. Yeah, that was in the script. That I wouldn't say that to him. I'd never say that to him now, even. But yeah, that was definitely me and John's chance to get to know each other and get to know our interests, you know, and that, I mean, never look back really after that, you know. It was a great opportunity to get to know the fellow.
Yeah. I mean, like you need that sometimes, don't you? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've just said there. No, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but you said you'd had a few scrapes with him.
Yeah. Well, he was always like, how could I put it? Top boy, cock of the school kind of thing. You know, we say Liverpool, don't we? But yeah, he was the, you know, the one you wouldn't mess with. Everyone was kind of a little bit frightened of him. And yeah, me and John, we had a little tussle at the back of the studios. I think it was in the first week. And to be honest, I was never a great fighter. I'd always have a go, but I wasn't nowhere in his league. And he just kept knocking me down, and I kept getting up. It was a bit like that movie, Cool and Luke, we always laugh at nowadays. Because I kept trying. He liked it. You know, he respected me for that, but I just couldn't get near him. He was just too quick and fast. And that happened one early on, and we shook hands after it, but I was still weary of him for a while. It still took the London day out, you know, to get to know him properly. Yeah, you know.
Well, we mentioned earlier about the barge trip episodes. There's something in there. It became apparent in that Ziggy took quite an interest in like nature and wildlife and stuff. Was that your input? Because I believe you're into like things like that as well. Like, but I was just wondering if you had anything to do with that.
It was definitely in the character, but he was written that he loves birds and bird watching, and he knew every name of a bird. Whereas I am similar. I do love birds too. It's an interest, hawks especially, and eagles, you know, all that kind of thing, and even garden birds. It is an interest, or there's a word for it, ornithology or something. It's probably wrong, that word, but it's similar to that.
I nearly said like orthodontist then. I thought, no, that's a completely different thing. You've just mentioned, you mentioned before about, you know, looking for the Grange Hill ghost and all that. That was another thing you were involved with. But also one of the things I wanted to mention, I mentioned it in Ricky's, was the injury that Ziggy got in the football. Because I said in Ricky's, I've watched it a couple of times and I'm yet to see where the contact happens, to be honest. Like,
I'd have to watch that back. It's been so many years since I've watched the show, you know. It's got over 10 years probably since I've seen any of them. So I can't quite remember. I remember that he takes me out. And he's a villain of the show, isn't he? The villain of the episode for a while. And I remember I scored that great goal. Someone
blinder.
So was it you that dubbed Aguero on it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
He goes, Aguero.
So that's on that's doing the rounds on Twitter. That one. There's a video of you scoring. There was a few other people did things as well. So there's obviously, I know you'll hate me for saying this. It's up for grabs now. Gets dubbed over it as well, from 89. There's a Vardy one. There's a Vardy one been dubbed over it as well as there's a few like. But I mean, hell of a finish, I've got to say on that.
It took a few takes to get. I mean, John was gutted. John Alford was gutted because he was the footballer. He was 10 times better than me. He was a better fighter. He was a better footballer. He was probably better looking. He was everything better than me, and he would have loved that part to be the footballer in that in the series, and he was just gutted that it was me. So, it took a few takes, but when I did score it, it flew in. You know, there was no doubt about that one.
You did celebrate like it was the cup final as well, I've got to say.
Just that relief, I think, that went in. You know, I did the bar, I did the post, or someone would tackle me. It was just everything could go wrong went. So it was just relief, I think, when it does go in.
And then you got involved with Gonch's money making schemes as well. Obviously, when Olo Holloway left, you and Robbie became sort of Gonch's sidekicks, making all the money and all that. And there's one particular one which is babysitting.
Oh God,
and what an episode that is, because the girl who plays Karen, I think she's brilliant in that. I think she's brilliant in that episode.
She was brilliant. And give it a due. The part was like, it was like the worst person. It was supposed to be the worst person to go babysitting with.
Yeah.
And she played that, and she played it brilliantly. And we both, we both got our heads down and done it the way it was scripted, and it worked perfect. And she was such a lovely girl as well.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'd love to know what she's doing with herself now, and and say hello, because hats off to her. Mustn't have been a nice part to play.
No, because it is a little bit sort of like, she's a bit like the butt of the jokes without any jokes actually being made. It's
exactly.
Yeah, you can see what sort of character she's meant to be. But I just think she's excellent in that episode. I think she was so good. Yeah,
she was really good, and there was no despite what the comments and everything, she just done it. She didn't moan, she didn't get embarrassed, she just done it. So hats off.
And then there was obviously feuding with you started your feuds with Morley as well, because of what happened with Gonch and your money making and the dating agency. And then Morley took a bit of a dislike to you as well.
I remember the Western music coming over something once. There's a scene where me and John are by the bike sheds, and it's like we play the Clint Eastwood from a spaghetti Western music. I remember that. We're looking at him. I remember that bit.
And then,
which was unusual for them to do that.
Yeah, it was. Incidental music just didn't happen at the time, did it?
No,
I think it happened in it happened in later episodes, but at that time, it didn't seem to happen. But I remember that bit, because there was yourselves, there's Morler and Ted, but there's also Bronson and Griffiths, the other ones as well.
Yeah,
which was a weird partnership, Bronson and Griffiths. I just think, but two cracking actors as well. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, without doubt.
Two cracking fellas,
the standard of acting between them two, is just incredible. Michael Sheard, I mean,
what was he like?
So many movies.
What
was he like? So many movies. Well, I mean, everyone hounded him over Star Wars, asking him, more geekier members of the cast, always ask him about Star Wars, and his part in Star Wars, and did he meet what was Han Solo like, Harrison Ford, what was Luke, whatever, So we get 100 questions about it, but he loved talking about it. He loved talking about his career, and and them stories. I mean, he used to play poker with us as well. I used to clean the lads out in poker. Not many people might know, but John, especially John Alford, used to lose all his wages to him.
Right.
So, but a great guy. I mean, he gave me a terrible bollocking one day though when I was late. Oh God, yeah. I came in late for about a half hour late maybe. But what it was, I got a terrible name for being late, but it was a 2.5 hour journey. What people didn't quite understand was to get from where I was in Mitcham, I had to get to Tooting, from Tooting to King's Cross, from King's Cross to Elstree, and then walk 15 minutes.
Right.
So it was like 2.5 hours. And if one little bit trips you up, then you're late, One train's late or one bus. So anyway, I came in late, and he shouted at me in front of the whole cast. And I just didn't know where to put my face. And I couldn't argue with him because I knew he was right.
Right.
I just had to take it on the chin and look, sheepish. Yeah. And I not long before he died, and I'm so glad I've done this, I somehow got his email address off somebody. And I sent him an email saying, listen, Michael, I just want to, I hope you're well, but I just want to say that day when you gave me a real good lesson in timekeeping, I want to thank you. I said, because when I left Grange Hill, I've never been late for any job ever since, which is true to this day. I said, but that was because of you. And he come back, he said, I'm so glad to hear this, George. You've really cheered me up. I'm glad I was of some use during the show.
Yeah. No.
He passed away then not long after.
Oh, no, that's...
So I'm glad I got that in.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm so glad I got that message to him before he passed.
Yeah, definitely. So then moving on to your sort of your last series, if you like, you were involved in a massive scene, I think, where you find Danny Kendall in the back of Bronson's car. Then now there was a memorial service for Danny Kendall. Now I've heard a story about filming the memorial service. Do you want to explain what it is?
Do you know what? All it was, right? It was a simple comment I made, and it wasn't even when we were filming, but people, when we were filming it, kept thinking about what I'd said in the rehearsal of it.
Right,
we were rehearsing, and one of the teachers says, "This is Danny's mum, Mrs. Kendall." Now I just went like that for just to talk to the few of the lads next to me and the girls. Didn't say it out loud. I just went, "Okay, Mrs. K." Just a silly little comment like that,
right.
And everyone laughed. And so when we come to film it, and she says the same line, "This is Mrs. Kendall, Danny's mum, Mrs. Kendall," everyone's just trying not to laugh because they're thinking of me saying that stupid line, Mrs.
Right.
K. I had a habit of shortening people's names. Mr. Griffiths was known as Mr. G.
Yeah.
I think Vince's dad was called Mr. S.
Yeah.
It's just stupid things. I just threw that in. Hello, Mrs. K. And anyway, that's all it was. It was just people were having flashbacks.
It's a little bit apparent that there's like something's gone on just with a couple of people. Like I know the likes of Drummond, he's sort of looking round because like he doesn't want to. As the camera's panning across, you see him sort of turn away, and I don't know if he's like laughing at that.
Yeah,
but
yeah. But I don't think I said it on the day.
Right.
I wouldn't have done that, because it was a serious scene.
Yeah.
It was only said in the rehearsal, when you can do what you want, really.
Yeah.
And it's such a daunting scene anyway. It's just lighten it up a bit, It was just to lighten things up. That's the only reason I used to do things like that. It's just if something was daunting or sad, I'd try and make it a bit, so it's not as sad.
Yeah. Just a little bit later after that, there was the Isle of Wight episodes as well. Yeah. So you went there.
I love the Isle of Wight. I love that. Yeah, they were 10 days, and it was beautiful sunshine. I remember that. It was so hot. It was like we had the perfect weather, and it was just great. The cast that were there, we all got on so well, and we had such a laugh. Of a night time after work, we'd go clubbing it in the clubs in the Isle of Wight, and the little bars sitting outside overlooking.
You must have been about you must have been about 19 or 19, 20 then, like. Yeah.
18. I was in my prime then. 18 in my prime. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I mean, it must have been a ball. Like,
that was probably the best 10 days for me. I'd say. You ask what your favourite memory is. I'd say them 10 days on that Isle of Wight for me were like top notch.
So did Drummond have to do much acting when he was bevied? Like, did he?
Poor Drummond. I felt so sorry for Drummond doing that because it was so cold, that water.
Yeah.
It was like proper in that sea for all day, treading water. Right. And I mean, I would have hated to have done that. I fear sharks anyway. And apparently there was a great white spotted in the Isle of Wight once. And I told him that before he went in.
I mean, for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, there's a scene there where John Drummond, who plays Trevor, gets drunk, and he ends up when they've tried to hide him from the teachers, he ends up getting washed out to sea, and getting rescued by the lifeboat. Like, so, yeah, that must have been a bit of a nightmare for him filming that. Like,
it was hard for him, but God, give him his due. I mean, he'd done that. He had his clothes on. He had something underneath to keep him warm, but it was still. I know he was cold because I remember him coming back. He was like shivering. He was like he had heaters on him for about 4 hours afterwards. He was that cold,
I mean, it was the genuine lifeboat crew, wasn't it? That were going out.
They got the proper. Yeah, it was real McCoy. They had the proper lifeboat guys. They were real lifeboat people, whoever people, volunteers.
Yeah. Because
they're all normal people, like estate agents, aren't they? And flower sellers, whatever, They're just real people going out doing it. And they got them all, yeah.
Yeah. So then after, like, after your 4 years, before I got onto that, Ziggy never really had sort of a girlfriend as such. I know we talked a bit earlier on about the babysitting with Karen, who really wanted to be Ziggy's girlfriend. And then obviously there was the prom. And it was the first time I'd ever heard of what a prom was. They were always just school discos.
I know. It's mad now. That's all you hear about proms now, isn't it? Well,
and then And Ziggy finally gets together with Georgina. What was Samantha Lewis like?
Yeah, she was lovely, Sam. Yeah, she's really nice girl, really attractive as well, and nice, easygoing, quite quiet, not loud in any way. Whereas like Ruth and Flair were loud and boisterous. You know when they walked in a room. But Sam was quite quiet, not like them in a way. You know, she was quite refined, more refined. I found. I always thought, if anything, Ziggy should have. His character, this has gone with Ruth, Helen, because he seemed to have more in common with her. He was talking football with her in the chippy in them episodes, which I loved doing with Ruth. She was great to work with Ruth, and he just seemed to gel more with her. But they put him with Georgina, you know. I always thought Helen would have been a better match for him because of things in common, you know.
Yeah, and then that go on, and then that signaled the end of your time on Grange Hill, and it was a little bit strange in a way because you were actually given a send-off, which not a lot of characters got. I know, like the likes of Mrs. McCluskey did, and Bronson got one in the same episode as yourself. Yeah, but I just thought it was nice that you got that little bit of a send-off. That, as I say, not a lot of characters get that.
The Arsenal scarf.
Yeah. Was going back ever discussed? Going back for the sixth form, was that ever discussed? Or
I could have done the sixth form, and I look back and I think, what an idiot! I should have done it. But I decided not to. I just wanted. I'd done 4 years. I just felt I wanted to come home. I was getting homesick towards the end. I thought I want to go home now and leave while I'm on top. I didn't think the sixth form would have worked for me. You know, it was a mixture of a few things, but mainly I wanted to come home. I just felt I'd done my time. You know, I'd done my 4 years. And you have expectations at that age, at 18, in my prime, as I say. I thought I was going to come home, get into something else quick, but it took 7 years till I did, Brookside. But for 7 years, I was kind of in the wilderness a little bit. But I thought I'd got to walk into movies and this and that and be a big star. You know, I was all a bit disillusioned. You know.
Okay, so.
But you can't tell your future, you know, you don't know you just don't know, do you? I took the risk and it didn't pay off.
No, I mean, sometimes, you just take that, you just think what's right for you at that time, don't you? As well.
Yeah.
You know.
That's it.
That's it. That's okay. So just before we move on from Grange Hill, you were in Grange Hill when a lot of people say it was at its peak.
I'd say that. Yeah, and I'd agree with that.
There was the Just Say No and all that came out.
Yeah.
Now, you feature in the video quite a bit in a lot of the disco scenes, but the recording, the singing, the recording, you're not there at all. No. You want to, can you explain why you're not on that bit?
Yeah, I can explain. Liverpool played Everton in the derby the day they were recording. So I took ill that day.
Okay.
I was sick that day, funny enough, and I missed the recording.
Right.
But I said to them, when you do the video, I'll definitely, because I was at home. It was when because we had 4-month breaks, so they were doing the recording and the video whilst I was home. But I said, look, I'll definitely make the video because it didn't clash with any derbies, you know. So I made the video, but it's Ricky Simmons actually singing. I'm ad-libbing, miming to him.
Ah, right. Yeah. Okay.
It's him. That's his voice, but me miming to it.
Because there's a big close-up of you singing, isn't there? Yeah, on that bit.
There's a stupid Trilby hat, which I found on the set, and for a laugh, I put it on, not knowing it was going to go to number 5 and be shown all over the world and on YouTube for years to come, wearing this Trilby. You know, I just decided to put it on and take it off for a joke, and then anyway, it backfired obviously because it, you know, I didn't expect it to do as well as it did.
Yeah. And then, I hope you don't mind me mentioning this. So you weren't on any of the singing for Just Say No. However, and I don't know if people listening to this might not know this, there was a follow-up single to Just Say No.
Oh, God, it was so bad. It was so bad. I don't even know how it got away with getting wherever it got. I don't think it got anywhere, to be honest.
It's called, anyone who doesn't know, it's called You Know the Teacher. And George, aka Ziggy, actually takes lead vocals on
Oh yeah,
on the
that's
record.
possibly the lowest point of my career. It's not even worth talking about. It's so bad. The song, my singing, everything.
It's the music is probably the most 80s music I've ever heard. To be honest, it's all synthesizers and drum machines and all kinds.
He tried to cash in, you see, on the Just Say No, which worked. Just Say No worked. Everyone got it. Yeah, great. But then he tried to cash in with the album, and it wasn't just my song that was horrendous. There was a few others pretty debatable, you know.
Yeah.
If some people like it, then great. But it was no Dark Side of the Moon, was it?
So there was yourself and John McMahon, who obviously played Gunch, basically talking about Mr. Bronson.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great laugh doing it. Don't get me wrong. We shot that in Liverpool in the Holt.
All right, yeah.
Girls' School. It was in the Holt Girls' School.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we had a great time filming it. Don't get me wrong. That's the only fond memory I've got. And everyone come up to Liverpool for it.
Right.
Flair, Ruth, Sam, John, me. So we all went to State. After we were filming that, I took them to State. Okay. Well, no, me and Ruth. I took Ruth to the State. She come with me. Who played Helen? We had a good night in the State. Yeah. That was when it was the old State, not the State. When it was, because it turned into like the rave club, didn't it?
Yeah.
This is when it was the old State.
Right.
You know, when it was all punks and you know, like strange people everywhere.
Slightly just before my time. That was only a few years, like. But yeah, I know exactly where you mean there. So 80 episodes later, Grange Hill. It's time to leave. Like, what you do then?
That was the thing. It was difficult when I first left. It took a long time to break through again, which was in 1996 in Brookside. But for many years, I've just done normal jobs, which I detested. Right. You know, just to pay, you know, my way in life. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So I have to do it.
Because you mentioned earlier you were in Let Him Have It. The Derek Bentley film.
I had straps, you know, I call it straps, you know, I had little lines here and there and different things and, you know, but there was nothing major, you know.
So then how did Brookside come about then?
Brookside was, well, I'd done it in 91. I did have I'd done a few episodes in 91 and then that was it. It was written out. It just like didn't appear again then until 96. Right. And it was to come back as a heroin addict. So again, after already playing them 6 years earlier, which I found strange because, you know, anyway, I had to re-audition and they told me it was to play a heroin addict, you know, so I knew it was going to be difficult, but you know, I done it and I loved doing it. Yeah. I must admit it was as sad as the part was. It really gave me something to get my teeth into and to really show what I could do in regards to acting. You know, I had to do scenes where I was crying and they were real tears as well. I didn't get the fake ones, you know. Right, yeah. I had to do scenes where I'm cold turkeying, you know, where I'm off my head, drugged up, and then eventually die in it, you know.
Yeah. Did you have to do much research for that? Like,
I've done a little bit, yeah. I've done a fair bit. You know, I watched Trainspotting over and over. I spent a week with the Happy Mondays.
Right.
So there's a few characters lurking around them, you know, that give me a few tips. So yeah, no, there was a lot of it was just instinct. You know, I just put myself into that person. And I reflected back on a lot of sad things that have happened in my life and bad things and stressful things. And I used that. I used all the horror and all the sadness into that part. And that's why I got away with it, I think, because I used a lot of my own history.
Yeah. And what was it like working on Brookside?
I loved it. I mean, I was only on it for about 4 or 5 months, maybe, if that. Right. And yeah, it was great. I mean, I knew I was going to die. You know, I asked in the beginning, I said, how's it end? And he said, well, you're going to get killed, you die. And there was a reason for that. because if you look at Grange Hill and you look at Zammo, you look at how he goes on heroin and it's bad, but then he overcomes it and he gets better and he lives his life then. But so it shows that. But with my character, Little Jimmy, they wanted to show that, you can go on it and get involved, deep involved like he was with drug dealers and own money, and it can end bad. And that's why they wanted to show that, that you can't always get away with it and live your life. It can end up,
Yeah, no, definitely,
It's like a lesson. It was like a lesson, say, It was a lesson in that this is what can happen if you dabble with it.
I mean, that was the thing, I think, with Brookside, like, it went to really dark places, didn't it? You know what I mean? There was always like funny time, like, and stuff, but I think Brookside was known for going, like, breaking boundaries and stuff like that, breaking barriers, should I say, and doing those kinds of stories.
Yeah, they weren't afraid to be controversial, and show things the way they were, as opposed to like beating, willy-nilly about it. They just go for the jugular, and that's why it was so hard hitting.
Definitely. You've just mentioned there about the Happy Mondays. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but you're actually in one of their videos, aren't you? Or is it or Black Grape? Was it the round of Black Grape time, wasn't it? It was the
Black Grape. It was England's Irie. It would have been a bigger hit. It's just that this was the week I had with them. Funny enough, it was in '96, just before I'd done Brookie,
right?
And it was to go with the World Cup that year, but because Three Lions come out, I think at the same time.
Yeah, so that was Euro '96, wasn't it? Yeah.
Euro '96, that's it. So because that come out, that overshadowed Black Grape's version, their one. Yeah. So it didn't do as good. If that hadn't come out, then that would have been the number one England song, So I lost out there again. The devil vomited in my kettle.
But yeah, it's quite strange because I read somewhere that you were in it, and I thought, no, he's not. And then you're there, all dancing all around the back.
I'm dancing next to Bez. Yeah. Bez is dancing with like a orange curly wig, and that was a good buzz dancing next to him, because I loved the Happy Mondays and I loved Bez dancing. I've always thought he was cool as hell, dancing. Yeah. So it was a great feeling dancing next to him.
Can I ask, how did that happen? How did you end up there with them?
It was because of John Alford. John Alford was doing Top of the Pops at the time. And I went missing. I said to John, I'm going to go for a little wander, because he was getting dressed and all that. And I didn't want to be looking at him getting dressed. So I went wandering around the corridors, which I used to do in life quite regularly, go wandering off. And I was just walking past the Black Grape dressing room, and the door was open, and Sean Ryder recognised me. He went, I don't want to swear, but what he said is, fucking hell, man, fucking hell, it's fucking scouts off Grange Hill, man. Fucking hell, come in. And I was like, oh, bloody hell, this is Sean Ryder, there's Bears, there's the rest of the band. I was like overwhelmed a little bit. And he just said, sit down, man, sit down. And then just got chatting to them. And next thing, we had a day, like a few hours, and he said, look, we're going back to Manchester on the tour bus. He said, do you want to come back and spend a few days in Manchester with us? So I said, yeah, why not? So John didn't know where the hell I'd gone. John was looking for me after he'd done his Top of the Pop stint. Yeah. And I was on a bus halfway to Manchester with them. I just got off, and left them. And I had a week with them. And I went back to London again, because I was doing these dangerous acting classes. Right. They were called in London. That's why I was around London at the time. Because I was preparing for Brookside with these classes called dangerous acting. Right. And this guy, he was taking it over the edge in these classes. So I was kind of so fine-tuned for the part,
Oh no, that's sound. And you've just mentioned there about being with John Alford, because you were also in his music video as well, weren't you? For Smoke Gets in Their Eyes, Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in the bath at the end, laying in the bath seat. And then I've done a bit of a John Lennon out of Norwegian Wood, because he's one of the line in Norwegian Wood. I crawled off to sleep in the bath. Yeah. So I said, wouldn't it be funny, John? At the end of the video, I'm laying in your bath. Party, because he has a party, and then that's what we've done. Yeah. But John's great. If he when he's doing well, he looks after you, and likewise when I'm doing well, I look after him. It's just a thing we have with each other, whether it be money or putting each other in what we're doing, we can try and help each other,
Yeah. So there's all that, and obviously you've mentioned a few of the, you got some acting jobs and stuff like that. You were also part of Bring Back Grange Hill with Justin Lee Collins.
Oh yeah.
So what was that
reunion, like? Yeah, that was all right. That was okay. I mean, it's a bit of a circus, getting us all on stage to sing "Just Say No" again. It was like, and I remember he ran up to me at Euston Station, which I wasn't expecting.
Right. I was going to ask you that if you were expecting that at all, like.
I had a little inkling something was going to happen, but I didn't know what.
Right.
Because Fleur texted me and said that they ran into her estate agents.
Oh,
and
nice.
She didn't want to get involved. She said, no, the door on them.
Yeah.
So I kind of thought, right, I best expect the worst here. And then when I got to Euston, they all run at me,
Yeah.
It was all a bit surreal. But he was all right, Justin Lee Collins. We were just talking about football. That's all I remember with him.
Right.
When I met him afterwards, after we'd done the bit in the station, we just sat. I think he was a Bristol City fan. Right. And we were just talking about football for ages,
Yeah. Oh, that...
Yeah, and how shit Bristol are, Yeah, at the time, I think.
Apologies to any Bristol fans who are listening there. So you mentioned there about Fleur having an estate agent, and obviously you've done stuff like that yourself, haven't you, as well? Like, you were talking earlier on about jobs and stuff.
Yeah, I worked in estate. I actually enjoyed that. Yeah, I worked in one for about 4 years.
Right.
Selling houses. I'm always good at selling. I've worked on markets. I've done all the Del Boy years.
Yeah.
So selling houses was like a step up for me.
Right.
So it was great, I quite enjoyed it.
Okay. And so what do you do now?
I work in a psychiatric hospital now.
Right. Okay.
In Liverpool. I'm a support worker for the NHS.
Uh-huh.
And basically, I've been through stuff myself. I think that there's no one that doesn't know that anymore after writing that book. So yeah, I like to get them when they're young. Now young lads come in with problems. I can talk to them. I can help them on a level, but they appreciate because they know I've been through it. I actually say to them, look, where you're sitting now, I've sat myself.
Right.
So it's great to be able to do that and help them, in their recovery.
Yeah. So without dwelling on it too much, George, writing the book, obviously you've just mentioned there you've had your problems and stuff like that. How much did that help you in your own sort of battles there?
Well, what it was with the book, there was a few reasons I wrote it. One was to get it all out because I hadn't spoke about it for so many years to anyone, what I'd been through. So it was a good way of getting it all out, even though it was very hard towards about halfway when I started going into what happened and the different stories that go with that. It was really hard. I even had to take 2 weeks out to not do it anymore, and then went back to it. And I did finish it, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, I've done it to get it all out. I also done it to warn people of don't go down the road I've gone down. There is other ways. Don't necessarily go take my route. So that was a warning. It was a warning as well for people, and obviously for money as well. To get a few quid.
Right. Okay.
So we threw it on Amazon, but I never expected to sell it. I mean, I wrote it and I sent it out to various publishers, and a few came back wanting to take it, and I just went with the one I thought went with my instinct.
Yeah.
I took it.
Yeah. No, that's a sound like. So we're almost at the end of the interview, and I always ask the same few questions towards the end, and they're always related to Grange Hill. So other than Ziggy Greaves, and it's not necessarily who you want to play, who is your favourite character on Grange Hill?
Tucker.
Right. Yeah.
Always Tucker. He was like my idol as a kid. Well, I must have been about 8, 9 when he come on the screens, and I just looked up to him. I just thought he was great, and I eventually met him in about '96 again with John. Me and John was doing his London Top of the Pops again, and we played pool, and he was just such a nice guy.
Yeah.
I really got on with him. We got on like a house on fire, and I was so glad he was what I imagined him to be.
Yeah. Oh, that sound. And so this question will probably be exactly the same answer. Which other character would you have liked to have played if you couldn't have played Ziggy Greaves?
It would have to be Tucker. Yeah. I mean, the other character I'd say that stood out, and he was the nastiest character in it, was Gripper. I mean, Gripper character was just horrendous. But to play him, you would have to be really thick-skinned, because the guy who played him, Mark Savage, he got a lot of hassle for playing that part. So I've got a lot of respect for Mark.
I imagine,
because he got more stick. We all got stick. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But he would have got more than anyone for that character, playing a racist character. He would have got it 10 times worse than I got, or John, or any of the lads.
Yeah. So what was the public reaction like to Ziggy Greaves?
It was great, to be honest. I mean, wherever I went, 9 out of 10 would shake my hand and be respectful, and girls, obviously, we're great.
Right, okay, yeah. We'll leave that there if you want.
Women loved him because he was similar to Tucker, because he was easygoing, he was funny, he was likable, he was cheeky, all the same attributes to Tucker. Right. So I had all that in public. They knew I wasn't like, if I would have been like Ripper, my character, I would have just got hell. I just know it, because people believe what they see on the telly. A lot of people, they think that's what you like. And because I played a likable character, it was a lot easier for me. But there still was 1% of nutters that you've got to deal with every so often. And I still get it to this day. Now and then I'll be in a pub and someone will make a comment, or a concert, and someone might say something. You've always got to have that little eyes in the back of your head. Yeah.
Sound okay. So then
it's just the way it is. It's not just me. I know anyone in the public eye kind of has to deal with it.
Yeah. Okay. So then, my very last question then for you, George, is it's the same one I ask everyone. Why do you think then there's still such affection for Grange Hill?
I think because at the time there was, you had the 4 channels, and it was, kids could go home, watch it, and relate to every character. Every character in that show, you could relate to it. Even when I watched it, I related to Tucker because he was the most like me, I suppose. Then you'd get another character who might relate to Trev, a big ginger kid who gets drunk. Someone could relate to that. There was the Gonch, the money makers, they'd relate to them. The Gonch, the Hollows. Every character, there was the characters like that in every school. Now, I think that's one of the main reasons why everyone loved it, because they could relate to it. And it warmed kids up before they went to senior school as well, thinking this is what it's going to be like. Give them a bit of a bird's eye view of what was to come as well. But it's just one of them shows. You won't get it again. You wouldn't get away with it now.
No,
it was just,
no, you wouldn't.
At the time, it got away with everything because, I mean, they did have. There was. I know there was some things you had to fight to get in.
Right.
Even at the time, I remember hearing Ron Smedley telling me. The producer, he said we had to fight to get that in and this in. So they didn't have it easy all the time. There was times when they had to, put the boundaries.
Yeah, and I think everyone who's a Graingel fan is so glad that they did fight and push for it, because as you say, they could relate to it, and it was all right. Some stories were a little bit far-fetched, but it was real, wasn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was,
well, they used to see with a lot of the storylines. They go into schools like with Imelda and the girls bullying that gang of girls. Apparently, when they done the research before that series, they found out that there was girl gangs going around in schools bullying lads and girls.
Right.
So that's why they put that in.
Right.
The story where I climb up the building, the highest point of the school, that happened in a school.
Right.
someone had climbed up to the top, and a lot of things had happened, and they were just putting it into the show to show you this goes on.
No,
and the race, the gripper, I mean, that really pushed the boundaries, but it showed that this goes on in schools. There is characters like this that exist. Don't push it under the carpet. There is racism in schools, and this is how it is. And it showed it for what it was.
Yeah, definitely. George, it's been amazing talking to you about your time on the show. I've had so many people who've sent me messages and stuff saying, when are you getting Ziggy on? When are you getting Ziggy on? So I'm so glad
it's understandable. It's understandable.
I'm so glad that I've been able to speak to you. Obviously, I'll just throw an apology out to anyone listening, just in case we got two scouts in the middle of that, and you found any of it difficult to understand. So just apologies there, but no, it's been brilliant talking to you. And for anyone that is listening, have a fantastic Christmas, and I'll speak to you next time. Cheers. Thanks very much.